Have you ever looked back and wished you were braver? Many people do. Research shows that our brains are hardwired to overestimate risk, exaggerate the consequences, and underestimate our ability to handle it. Confronted with ongoing economic instability, mounting global competition in the marketplace, fear in the workplace is just growing. Which is why you will enjoy hearing from a very special guest today, Margie Warrell. Her best-selling books, Find Your Courage, Stop Playing Safe, Train the Brave, and Make Your Mark reflects her passion for helping people live and lead more bravely. Margie has run leadership programs in organizations around the world such as NASA, Google, and the United Nations Foundation. She's interviewed global leaders such as Richard Branson, Steve Forbes, and Bill Marriott. You might have also seen her on CNN or The Today Show. Please welcome Margie Warrell.
Thank you, thank you.
Could you elaborate a bit more on what brave leadership is?
Yes, sure. Well, if you think about, I use the terms bravery and courage quite synonymously. And so it isn't the absence of self-doubt or fear or having no concern whatsoever about the risks of things going wrong. It is actually action in the presence of it, being mindful that things may not work out the way we want, but we're going to take the action anyway. And so when it comes to leadership, I believe that you cannot have great leadership unless you're willing to take risks and have sometimes difficult conversations, being willing to risk the possibility of falling short in trying something new, and exposing yourself sometimes to things you don't want to expose yourself to, losing reputation even. So to me, courage lays at the heart of great leadership, of brave leadership.
There's also an element of risk that comes into play. Can you talk a little bit about risk? Because I know in the book you've mentioned about risk and also in specific the Soar Model. What is the Soar Model?
Sure. Well, the Soar Model is really around resilience. How do you bounce back from that? How do you soar above the things that can pull you down when things don't go to plan, when you don't get the response you want? But in terms of, when it comes to being resilient and taking risks, risk, if you think about, what is risk? We're all dealing with risk every day. We're hedging our bets. We're going, is the upside worth the downside? What's the chances of that happening? And as you mentioned in the introduction, our brains are wired to focus more on what could go wrong, to focus more on what we could lose. So we are actually twice as sensitive psychologically to potential losses, to the downside of risks, than we are to potential gains, the upside of taking a risk. And because of that, we often are risk averse. We hold back from doing the very things that could open up new doors of opportunity, that could allow us to forge new ground, launch a new product, improve a system, all of the things that we need to do in order to have a really thriving, prosperous business and to be competitive too.
So I sort of take from here that the organizations that are looking to sort of transform their culture, that are looking to transform their aspirations as well, they have to have the appetite for risk, and they have to have that sort of embedded within the culture itself that sort of encourages as well employees to take risk. We talked about this earlier, that it's not just about being part of this journey, but also feeling safe to be able to sort of voice your opinion, to be able to fail fast, but at the same time think about learning from the failures as well. Could you share something from your sort of real life example where, and I know we did talk about it, where failure was there, but you were not sort of disheartened with failure and you just kept moving?
Yeah, and before I do that, I just want to mention, actually in Stop Playing Safe, I write about having a culture of courage. And a culture of courage is one where people feel safe to take risks, because we will play safe if we feel unsafe to do otherwise. And there's this concept called psychological safety. Unless you feel that it's okay for you to speak up and to challenge the status quo and to question your boss and to call something out, if you know that, hey, my job's on the line here, there's going to be massive repercussions on this, people won't do it unless they're really bold and brave and they're willing to lose their job.
And how do you think culturally within the organization, is this something what we can do to really sort of drive that currency of trust as well?
Well, at first, of course, you know, be the change you want to see. Are you genuinely trustworthy? And looking at that through not just the lens of, am I an honest person and I don't steal and cheat, but can other people count on me to do the right thing by them? Do I let people know I genuinely care about them as human beings and not just as human doings and what they can add to my bottom line? And I think leaders who have the ability to connect with people at that emotional level where people go, I really get that this person has a heart for me and a heart for this business, that they're genuinely committed, not just to their own success, which we see a lot, but to the success of others. That makes such a difference. And I think all of us have a role to play in that.
I'm very curious to know about your interview with Richard Branson. You know, how was the interview with Richard Branson, and is there anything sort of specifically you remember or you sort of always keep it to your heart in terms of your interview?
Actually, yes, there is. And it's funny. I met him on his island, Necker Island, and I remember being a little bit nervous because I was Richard Branson, you know, I was like, Margie, he's just a
iconic.
I kept saying to myself, he's just a human being, he's just like you. But then, oh my God, but I've been invited to interview Richard Branson, and I was there with a whole lot of other leaders and entrepreneurs, and I was doing that in front of all of them too. And I met him earlier that day, and he was there in his board shorts and a t-shirt, I think in bare feet, and incredibly down to earth. And he just was so playful and fun and warm and interested. And I was disarmed by just how very unpretentious he was. And I think, if anything, that probably impacted me the most over the course, because I actually had 5 days then with him and a group of people, was just how incredibly accessible he was, how passionate he is about making the world a better place.
Fascinating. And I think when you're authentic and when you're true to yourself, you sort of focus on your strength as well, and your strengths then lead towards sort of not playing safe, you know, and that gives you the courage to sort of forge forward as well. What are the 2 key takeaways? While yes, everybody's going to read the book, but what are the 2 key takeaways you would sort of give from this book in terms of stop playing safe?
Well, I guess I would firstly say that if all you are doing is what you know you can't fail at, you are well and truly missing out on doing what you're capable of, and you will never be as successful as you could be. That risk is paramount, is essential to succeeding at the level that we're capable of. And I'm not just talking professionally, I'm talking personally, I'm talking in every realm of life. And secondly, to be mindful of the tendency that you have to focus more on what could go wrong, and for women in particular, to underestimate ourselves. I think women do that even more than men, in underestimating our abilities and our ability to manage risk, and to be very mindful of the cost of inaction. Where are you actually discounting or denying what it's costing you not to take the risk, not to have that conversation, not to put your hand up, speak up, lean in, and do that very thing that maybe makes you feel acutely uncomfortable?
Well, thank you so much.